Uncle Mark.
Yeah.
You know, we cover a lot of strange and disparate religious faiths and disciplines and the whatnot on this show.
Sure we do.
I think it's high time we look into this Mormon religion.
Well, doesn't ring a bell. Does not.
I would have thought Uncle Mark would love it to hear about more men.
Oh, zing! Tell me about these more. It is Pride Month this June, so
because you're gay, Mark.
Because you're a big old queer Bob. Tell me more men.
Yes, indeed. And boy, do I have more men for you.
Yay!
Because I'm titling this segment, The Nephites battle the Lamanites. No, not that one.
Yay!
Because if you've read the Book of Mormon, which I hope you haven't.
Yes, and don't ever do it.
Very few have, and those who have, they'll get out of their comas eventually. Right. Basically, the entirety of the book is just these two groups fighting each other, reconciling, and then fighting each other.
The Hatfield and McCoys of ancient America.
Right, over hundreds of, maybe thousands of years.
And for our listeners who understood exactly what Dan was saying, who are never Moes, and they know what he was saying because of this show, you're welcome.
Boom! Okay, so listeners will recall that you and I, Uncle Doug, went recently to Manti, Utah.
Yes, indeed.
And watched a whole pageant. In which part of which was...
Pageant is probably a little bit rich for what you guys witnessed, right?
Well, I don't know what to call it. I definitely am not going to label it theater because it feels like it would be denigrating my own art form. So I'm not going to go there. Anywho, we saw this thing. Part of it was a retelling of certain Book of Mormon stories. Certain stories from this book that Joseph Smith claims he translated from plates of gold that were hidden in a hole in his backyard. In his backyard.
Yeah.
So one of the stories I think I just wanted to look into because both you and I, Doug, and you're way more familiar with the Book of Mormon than I am.
Yeah.
Both of us went, wait, who?
Exactly.
What? And I do think I figured out why they chose that story as I was reading through it. So we'll get there.
All right.
This is a story from the Book of Alma, which, by the way, when you read the Book of Mormon, that's the book that you commit suicide on when you're trying to read it.
Truthfully.
And I will say this. I was not prepared for how much worse reading the Book of Mormon is than reading the Bible. Like, the Bible can be wordy and can be, obfuscated and tricky to navigate. It's got nothing on this book.
Yeah.
Right.
The Book of Mormon, I mean, Mark Twain called it chloroform in print.
Right.
And then Christopher Hitchens accused him of hitting too close to the mark, considering it's got a book called Ether.
That's right.
Which I think is hilarious. It is so boring that literally what I had to do, because I was reading this on...
There's some good stuff in Ether that we'll talk about another time. But go on.
Yeah, well, sure, we'll get to stuff. But what I had to do in order to keep myself engaged and understanding and make sure I understood what was happening was I literally copied and pasted the stuff from the church's website into a Word document and edited as I went.
Oh, my God.
I just thought you guys should know that. And literally, I took it from, I think, 2,200 words down to 1,800 words. And I didn't change the meaning of anything.
The mental image I have of you doing this project, Uncle Dan, is you like in a straitjacket with your eyes propped open like the final scene in Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. It's shorter, and it's still no better. I literally cut things like it came to passes, now and behold is constantly being thrown in. It was like he had these, Joseph Smith very clearly had these tics that he would just throw in, and he thought that it made it sound Bible-y or religious-y, which I'm sure other people do too. I changed things like weapons of war to weapons, because you don't have to say weapons of war. You can
it. Yeah.
And again, this is the conceit about the writing of the gold plates. If your job is to chisel a story onto a gold plate you smelted from the earth yourself,
right,
brevity would be important.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That's just me, I guess.
Right.
You would think so.
That come in at about 8 ounces per page, right?
Right. So good luck. Yeah, exactly. You can't even carry this thing. But anyway, nonetheless, sometimes it's important to use the phrase "they did go forth" as opposed to "they went." In this. So anyway, let me just tell you the story. We're going to talk about the story of the Lamanites, led by a man named Zarahemna. Now, if you have read, if you're familiar at all with Mormonism, then you've heard. Then you just think I mispronounced something, because there is a place in the Book of Mormon called Zarahemna. But and Doug, maybe you want to tell the story about your brilliant apologetic that you heard about names.
Oh, so on the ride to Manta, I was telling this story, and Uncle Mark, you'll remember this. I was in seminary. I was probably 15 or 16, and they gave us the apologetic that the Book of Mormon could not have been made up by one man or several people,
right?
Because of the sheer number and variety of names in it. And I came home. I was going to put you in the ground with that one. And I cornered you, and I'm like, well, Joseph Smith couldn't have made it up because there's so many names. No one man can make up that many names. And your response was, time me. And you just started going, zap it, zapatoop, zabadida, loop, lure. It's like, I remember walking away, God damn it.
I was at like 56 before you turned around. So Zimzam, zipakakak, lupaka, lagagugu.
And you'd think that would be an exaggeration, but that's literally how these names are going to play out. And also, he repeated a bunch of names. We'll get to it. So anyway, Zerahemna, not to be confused with Zarahemna, was the leader of the Lamanites, which the Lamanites are the bad guys. For those who don't know, Lamanites equals bad guys. They are color-coded so that we know who's who.
Book of Mormon's color-coded.
As a matter of fact, one of the ways that I looked at this story was on the church's own website. There is a picture book version of this, and the images are like one group and their leader is white and delightsome, and one group is filthy savage Injuns. And that's basically, that's what it looks like, and it is embarrassing.
Fuck.
Here we go.
Not to us. It's not embarrassing to us. It should be to someone else, though.
Yes, indeed. I'm embarrassed for them. Anyway, so the Lamanites outnumber the Nephites. Zarahemna appoints Amalekites to be their captains, because they were, quote, of a more wicked and murderous disposition.
So darker.
Right, exactly. Which I think is a good call. That's who you want at the head of your army.
Yeah.
And he wanted to make sure that Nephite hatred was at a maximum. So he made sure so that he could control his people, and they'd all attack the Nephites and kill/enslave them. So this is the plan. The good Nephites, by contrast, just wanted to live their good lives and be happy in their good houses, on their lands, with their wives and their children, and have all of their rights and privileges and their liberty, and worship their God according to their desires. And that was just a paraphrase of the actual. That's basically what the verse says. So enjoy that. And it keeps going through that. It keeps going through this litany of all the Nephites wanted was their lands and their wives and their liberty and their this and their. It's very
and their breakfast cereals.
Right. So there you go. They knew that the Lamanites wanted to destroy them. The Nephites did, and that they would kill anybody who believed in their God, and they knew that the Lamanites just hated their brethren of the who are the people of anti-Nephi Lehi, which is my favorite thing. Now. Nephi and Lehi being names early on in the Book of Mormon. So yes, Joseph Smith was so good at coming up with names, he just added the word anti to that. Inexplicable. Who, by the way, who were also called the people of Ammon. So why didn't you just say that in the first place, you fucking dick? No. Anyway, and those dudes just super pinky swore that they'd never take up arms. So the Nephites were going to have to defend everybody.
Right.
So the people of Ammon gave the Nephites a bunch of their provisions, and they prepared for a fight. Now, the captain of the Nephite army was Moroni. No, not that one. Yes, we Mormons all know about a Moroni. He's on the top of all of their temples and everything, but this is a different Moroni, so fuck you.
Well, maybe this is the one that Hitchens pronounced as Moroni. Maybe that's the difference.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You can pronounce it however you want. As Noah from Scathing pointed out, it's all made up. Don't tell me how to fucking pronounce the shit. He was 25 years old, apparently at the time. Now, they were all armed with swords and scimitars, which I assume which actually turns out it's spelled Cimeters, scimitar's, which is an alternate spelling for scimitars, which is a sword. So why you need to differentiate that from swords, I don't know.
Word count. It's a book report. You got to get the word count.
Got to get the word count. So they're armed with swords and scimitars and all manner of weapons of war. Again, weapons of war is a phrase that I had to start editing out because I know. Anyway, the Nephites were very clever. Also, this is a good way to win a war, guys. They figured out to wear clothes. So really big point on that one.
Clothes of war? Were they clothes of war, Dan, or clothes of other things?
Well, they start with a layer of clothes of anything, thick clothing, and then they had breastplates and arm shields and head shields, which literally shields to defend their heads. And like I said, thick clothing. Whereas the Lamanites were just in loincloths. Naked, but for a little sexy thing on the front.
Right. Wild people.
Right, exactly. Savages, They were also, so all they had was no armor. They just defended themselves with their swords and scimitars and bows and arrows and slings and stones.
And shields of war.
And shields of war. The Lamanites were scared because the Nephites were cheating and wearing all that armor. So they ran away to the land of, you ready for it? Manti.
Ooh.
For which the dumb Mormon town was named. And
that's why they use that story.
Boom. It's the story of their namesake city. So, great. Thanks, guys. Which is why they use a story that none of us had ever heard before. Buried deep in the worst book in the Book of Mormon. Anyway, so the Lamanites fled to Manti because nobody would be able to find them, because it's so hard to find a group of thousands of men.
Sure,
as you know. But Moroni was clever, and he sent some spies, and those spies figured out where they were, and they went off, and so they knew where they were, and Moroni took his armies and figured out a place strategically. And there's a really funny moment where he says that because they were defending their wives and their land and their houses and their freedom and their God and their whatever, he felt it was no sin to use a stratagem. Which, okay, yeah, in war, probably not a sin to use a stratagem, but he had to come to that. It wasn't obvious to him. So he plants a bunch of soldiers on the left bank of he finds a valley, and he plants some soldiers and hides them on the left bank of the river, and hides some other soldiers on the right bank of the river. Do you see how clever?
Is this the anti-Lehi, Manti-Nephi, anti-valley?
This is, yes.
Ha, good.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So, anyway, he also rallied a bunch of other, I don't know what, tribes? A bunch of other groups to fight with them. And they hid in all of these different places in this valley that they knew that the bad guys would come through.
Okay.
So,
I'm starting to think that Joseph Smith was not a great storyteller.
What? Wait, you hold on. Hold that thought. Let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to it.
Act 3 better be pretty good.
Right? It
won't be.
Nope. So the bad guys come through the valley, and then Nephites pop up. Ha-ha! And the southern attack was led by Lehi. No, not that one. And they managed to surround the Lamanites. Now, I'm going to read you This is Alma chapter 43, verse 36. I'm going to read it exactly because I think we'll all figure out what's really being said here.
What if I can't handle the truth? I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Oh, I think you'll like this one.
Okay.
The Lamanites, when they saw the Nephites coming upon them in the rear, turned around and began to contend with the army of Lehi.
And contend they did.
Yummy.
Come on. Jesus.
Yeah. I just thought that was cute. That's nice and sexy.
Sure.
I am going to go on, though, and read probably verses 37 and 38 as well, just so that all of you people who weren't raised in Mormonism, who have never had to contend with this fucking language, I want you to hear how shitty this stuff is. So here we go. Verse 37. And the work of death commenced on both sides, but it was more dreadful on the part of the Lamanites, for their nakedness was exposed to the heavy blows of the Nephites, with their swords and their scimitars, which brought death among almost at every stroke. There was now and then a man fell among the Nephites by their swords and the loss of blood, that being shielded from the more vital parts of the body, or the more vital parts of the body being shielded from the strokes of the Lamanites by the breastplates and their arm shields and their head plates, and thus the Nephites did carry on the work of death among the Lamanites.
Did he just say the same thing twice back to back?
Constantly.
Oh, my God,
that's dreadful.
There were like 8 times I thought I had a stroke reading this thing. It just happens over and over again.
And just to be clear also, this Uncle Dan and I saw this acted out on a hillside in southern Utah by 150 15-year-old kids who'd rehearsed it maybe twice.
Yeah.
In a startling display of theatrical violence. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So the Lamanites run away across the river, but Lehi didn't chase them. He just, I don't know if he was afraid of water or if he couldn't swim, but he just kept his guys on the other side of the river. The Lamanites tried to get back to Manti, but surprise, Moroni is there with his forces, and this time the Lamanites actually fought exceedingly. And let me tell you something. The word exceedingly is used twice in 2 sentences. That's just great writing.
Yeah, it's like Trump and strong.
Right. They fought like dragons, apparently, and did smite in 2 their head plates, and pierced their breastplates, and cut off their arms. So the Lamanites were doing okay for a minute there.
That's coming back. Good, strong comeback in the second quarter there.
Yeah, you need that. But the Lamanites were fighting for a cause. Freedom isn't free. Give me liberty or give me death. America! So they won. And when they saw that they had won, Moroni told Zarahemna that they didn't want to kill them, even though they are super duper bad and total dicks. But God made us win, so, we're pretty great. He does go on and on about how much more Dad loves me than he loves you. He tells Zarahemna to give up all of their weapons, and we won't kill you as long as you totes promise not to ever try to make a war with us again. He does this. I'll again read the exact scripture.
Oh, goody.
If ye do not this, ye are in our hands, and I will command my men that they shall fall upon you and inflict the wounds of death in your bodies, that you may become extinct, and that we will see who shall have power over this people. Yea, we will see who shall be brought into bondage. Which could be shortened to, if you do not this,
surrender or die.
I will command my men to kill you.
Right.
But no, we have to make sure that we hit that word count.
It's the word count.
Zerahemna gives up his sword and his scimitar and his bow, because apparently he had all of them on his naked body. But he was like, no, you didn't win because God loves you more. You won because the armor that you wear. So he was calling him on his bullshit. I liked that. Yeah, he says, we definitely will try to kill you again. I'm not going to make a promise that I won't keep. And that shows integrity.
Zarahemna seems to be the hero of this story.
Yeah, so he basically, he lays down his sword, and then Moroni So basically what Zarahemna says is, look, either give us back our swords and we will continue this and finish it one way or the other. We'll either prevail or die, or just let us go and you don't get a promise out of us. So, dear uncles, how do you think wise young Moroni's response came?
Probably in the most unwise possible way, I would guess.
Did he come upon him?
he in his rear. That's right, he gave Zerahemna back his weapons, saying, "We will end the conflict." Now, you might think that this means that the massacre is about to ensue, but no, because Moroni has apparently had a stroke. This is, again, I'm going to go back to the actual wording in the book, because this, I still am trying to puzzle out what the fuck happens here. This is Moroni speaking. "Now I cannot recall the words which I have spoken. Therefore, as the Lord liveth, ye shall not depart, except ye depart with an oath that ye will not return again against us to war. Now ye are in our hands, and we will spill your blood upon the ground, or ye shall submit to the conditions which I have proposed." Now you may think that I am just reading what I just said happened. I've made some mistake.
I literally was about to say.
This is his second time saying this, only this time he's just said, "I cannot recall the words which I have spoken."
I think he's playing head games with Zerahemna.
Well,
I think he's fucking with him, like trying to make him think he's crazy.
Well, it works, because Zerahemna freaks the fuck out and just charges at Moroni with a sword. But one of Moroni's soldiers knocks the sword out of his hand and scalps him.
Oh, fuck.
Jiminy.
Yes, indeedy. Which Zarahemna then apparently is okay enough that he just runs back into the crowd of his own people. And Moroni's soldier puts that scalp onto the top of his sword and holds it up for everybody to see and says basically what Moroni should have been saying this whole time, which is just basically, either lay down your swords and never come back, or we will fucking scalp you.
Right.
Or we will ask you another time.
Right, exactly. Because, well, no, that asking another time is apparently Moroni's great trick.
Yeah.
So a bunch of the bad guys do lay down their swords and run away because they're terrified.
Bad. Yeah.
But Zerahemna, who is missing his top bit, was pissed about it and commanded the remaining bad guys, who were all pretty fucking mad as well, to attack. And they were decimated. They attacked. They got mostly killed. Finally, Zarahemna, they basically stopped the thing and, you've won, fine. And Zarahemna super duper pinky swore that they would never fight again if they just stopped killing them, and also maybe give me a hat.
I could use some unguent.
He didn't actually say that, but I'm just trying to picture a man running around a battlefield without the top of his head.
A bloody skull top. Well, that's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
So now in chapter 44, verse 21, we start to end it up with, "Now the number of their dead..." Oh my God, I can't. Okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared to read this. Here we go. "Now, the number of their dead was not numbered because of the greatness of the number."
Oh, fuck. Come on.
I did not do this. This is not me.
Jesus Christ.
I'll start again because you interrupted, Doug, and that's your fault. "Now the number of their dead was not numbered because of the greatness of the number. Yea, the number of their dead was exceedingly great, both on the Nephites and on the Lamanites." So we don't know how many died because number.
If you like the word number, that is the verse for you.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So they dumped their dead. Oh, this is great. They dumped their dead into the river, which then they all floated gracefully all the way out to sea. So then they were buried.
Problem solved.
Then they were buried at sea, and everybody was happy, and they all went home. The end.
Well, what a great story, Dan.
Isn't it?
I really love the incredibly clear moral that
yes.
Dan will now tell us what that is.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's don't number your numbers with numbers.
Throw your dead into your water supply.
Yes, indeed. There you have it. I just wanted to tell a story from the Book of Mormon, and now I regret everything.
And we never have to do that again.
And for our listeners who don't know, that this is not an unusual, aberrant story. The Book of Mormon is just all this.
It's all this, only with way more "it came to passes," because that is like it. Yeah, it's like he has "it came to pass" Tourette's on this thing.
Well, I guess that concludes this week's How to Heretic Book Club chapter.
Yeah.
And we'll pick it up next week with not another one of these. So
Thank God, no.
let's move on.
Let's move on.